The speeding black SUV hit the pothole with a violent splash. A wave of thick, muddy water crashed over Amelia from head to toe, soaking her simple white blouse, drenching her hair, and splattering her face. She staggered backward, clutching the worn folder in her hands as shocked pedestrians gasped. Inside the luxury SUV, Damian rolled down the tinted window, a smug grin spreading across his face. "There she is," he sneered, "the woman who thought she'd always be too good for me." Beside him, his glamorous mistress, Bianca, burst into laughter, raising her phone to record every humiliating second. "Look at her," she mocked between laughs. "The mighty Amelia has become a roadside beggar. Smile for the camera." The crowd watched in stunned silence as Damian deliberately drove through another muddy puddle, sending a second wave crashing over his ex-wife. Bianca clapped with delight, making sure her phone captured Amelia's drenched clothes, trembling hands, and lowered eyes. "You should have stayed with me," Damian laughed. "Now you're nothing." Without saying a single word, Amelia calmly wiped the mud from her face and picked up the folder that had nearly fallen into the gutter. Neither Damian nor Bianca noticed the elegant silver invitation tucked inside it, the invitation to the exclusive signing ceremony where the owner of the company behind Damian's life-changing $50 million deal would finally reveal themselves. The Black Range Rover roared through the rain-soaked street, its tires slicing through a deep puddle with deliberate precision. A massive wave of muddy water exploded into the air. It crashed over Amelia. The force staggered her backward as thick brown water drenched her white blouse, soaked her black pencil skirt, and splattered across her face and hair. The leather folder she held slipped from her trembling fingers and landed on the wet pavement. Gasps echoed from pedestrians waiting at the bus stop. The SUV slowed. Instead of driving away, it reversed. The driver's window rolled down. Damian leaned his elbow comfortably on the door, wearing a designer suit and an expensive watch that gleamed beneath the afternoon sun breaking through the clouds. A slow, satisfied smile spread across his face. "Well," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "if it isn't my ex-wife." Amelia froze. For just a moment, their eyes met. 3 years. 3 years since she had walked out of the courthouse with divorce papers in one hand and her dignity in the other. Behind Damian, Bianca leaned forward from the passenger seat, laughing so hard tears formed in her eyes. "Oh my goodness," she squealed, pointing her phone at Amelia. "Look at her, she actually looks like she belongs in the gutter." The phone's camera remained fixed on Amelia's face. "This is going straight online," Bianca giggled. "People deserve to see what happens when someone thinks they're too good for success." Several people nearby exchanged uncomfortable glances. One elderly woman frowned. "Young man," she called out, "that's enough, leave her alone." Damian ignored her. Instead, he glanced toward another muddy puddle. His grin widened. "You know what," he said, "one shower isn't enough." He accelerated just enough for the rear tire to hit the second puddle. Another violent splash covered Amelia from head to toe. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in disbelief. Others immediately began recording. Bianca laughed even harder. "Perfect," she cried. "This is priceless." Amelia slowly wiped mud from her eyes. She bent down without saying a single word and picked up the leather folder. The expensive silver seal on its corner was still intact. She carefully cleaned it with her sleeve before holding it tightly against her chest. Damian noticed the folder and smirked. "What is that?" She remained silent. "Another job application," Bianca mocked, "trying to find work after losing everything." Damian chuckled. "I heard nobody wants to hire you." "Silence. I guess pride doesn't pay bills." "Still." "Silence." Amelia simply looked at him. There was sadness in her eyes. Not hatred, not anger, just disappointment. It unsettled Damian for reasons he couldn't explain. He quickly looked away. "Come on, Bianca." The SUV sped away. Bianca continued filming through the rear window until Amelia disappeared behind them. As the vehicle vanished around the corner, the elderly woman approached Amelia with an umbrella. "My dear, are you all right?" Amelia smiled softly. "I will be." She thanked the woman, picked up the folder once again, and continued walking toward a modern glass building several blocks away. None of the people watching noticed the elegant silver invitation tucked inside the folder. Printed beneath the company's embossed crest were the words, "Private Executive Signing Ceremony, Attendance Restricted." At that exact moment, inside the SUV, Bianca replayed the video and burst into another fit of laughter. "Oh, Damian, this is going viral." Damian barely looked. His attention remained fixed on tomorrow, the biggest day of his career. The contract, $50 million. One signature. Years of negotiations. One international company. Once the agreement was signed, his construction firm would become one of the fastest-growing businesses in the country. His phone rang. It was his business partner, Marcus. Everything ready for tomorrow. Damian smiled confidently. Already picked out the champagne. Marcus laughed. "I heard the company's owner is finally attending in person." "So, no one has ever seen the owner?" Damian shrugged. "Makes no difference." Marcus lowered his voice. "I've heard they're incredibly powerful. Powerful people sign contracts every day. But this one is different." Damian laughed dismissively. "Tomorrow they sign. They won't change their minds. Not after the numbers I've given them." Marcus paused. "Good." After ending the call, Damian leaned back comfortably. Nothing could go wrong now. Nothing. Yet somewhere in the back of his mind, Amelia's eyes lingered. Not her soaked clothes. Not the humiliation. Her eyes. Why hadn't she argued? Why hadn't she screamed? Why had she looked almost sorry for him? He shook the thought away. She was his past. Tomorrow was his future. Or so he believed. Across the city, Amelia entered the lobby of the towering headquarters. The security guards immediately straightened. "Good afternoon, Ms. Amelia." She smiled politely. "Good afternoon." One guard hurried to open the private executive elevator. Another pressed the restricted access button. A young receptionist stood as Amelia walked by. "Everything is prepared, ma'am." "Has the legal team arrived?" "Yes, the board. They're waiting for your instructions." Amelia nodded. "Excellent." The elevator doors closed. As they rose toward the executive floor, she stared at her reflection in the mirrored wall. Mud still covered her blouse. Her hair remained soaked. For the first time since the roadside incident, a single tear rolled down her cheek. Not because of the mud. Not because of Damian. But because the man she had once loved had become someone she no longer recognized. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. Inside the executive boardroom, several senior executives immediately stood to their feet. "Good afternoon, chairwoman." Amelia looked around the room. Tomorrow's signing ceremony would change many lives. But only one person was completely unaware that the company behind Damian's $50 million deal had belonged to Amelia all along. The executives remained standing until Amelia took her seat at the head of the long mahogany table. "Please," she said quietly, "let's begin." The chief legal officer slid several thick binders across the polished surface. "Everything is ready for tomorrow's signing ceremony. The acquisition agreement, the partnership contract, and the authorization documents are awaiting your final approval." Amelia flipped through the pages without speaking. Every figure matched. Every signature line was blank. Everything had led to this moment. One executive cleared his throat. "There's just one question, Chairwoman." She looked up. "Will you finally reveal yourself to Mr. Damian Brooks tomorrow?" A long silence filled the room. Finally, Amelia nodded. "Yes." Another executive smiled. "He has no idea." "No," Amelia replied softly, "he doesn't." She closed the folder. But tomorrow isn't about revenge. The room became quiet again. "It's about accountability." Those words lingered in the air as Amelia stared through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The rain had stopped. The clouds were beginning to part. For a moment, memories she had tried to bury came rushing back. 5 years earlier, Damian hadn't owned luxury cars. He hadn't worn tailored suits. He hadn't dreamed about $50 million contracts. He had been an ambitious young civil engineer working out of a tiny rented office with peeling paint and mismatched furniture. Amelia had met him by chance at a neighborhood charity fundraiser. He had spilled coffee on his own shirt while trying to help an elderly volunteer carry supplies. She had laughed. He had laughed too. That awkward moment had turned into dinner. Dinner became friendship. Friendship slowly became love. Back then, Damian was kind. He believed success should be earned. He often told Amelia, "If I ever make it big, I want to build something people can be proud of." She believed him. They married 18 months later in a small church, surrounded by family and close friends. There were no celebrities, no extravagant decorations, just promises and hope. During those early years, Amelia quietly supported every dream Damian had. When his first construction project lost money, she stayed up with him every night, helping him reorganize budgets. When investors rejected him, she encouraged him to keep going. When the bank refused another loan, she sold a collection of family jewelry she rarely wore. Damian never asked where the money came from. She simply smiled and said, "We'll figure it out together." He accepted her answer without question. What he never knew was that Amelia had inherited a controlling interest in one of the country's oldest infrastructure investment companies after her grandfather passed away. Her grandfather had been a firm believer in humility. "Wealth doesn't reveal character," he often told her. "It exposes it." Before his death, he had asked Amelia to keep her ownership private until she felt someone had truly loved her for who she was. She honored that promise. She never used the company to impress Damian. She never mentioned private jets, executive boardrooms, or billion-dollar assets. She wanted a marriage built on trust. For years, she believed she had found exactly that. Until success arrived. Damian's business finally landed several profitable contracts. Awards followed. Magazine interviews. Business conferences. His name began appearing beside influential executives. Then came new friends, exclusive parties, private clubs, people who constantly whispered that he deserved someone more polished, someone who matched his new lifestyle. Amelia noticed the changes long before she spoke about them. The late-night meetings became more frequent. Weekend business trips grew longer. Phone calls suddenly ended the moment she entered the room. One evening, she found Damian smiling at his phone. "Good news?" she asked. He locked the screen immediately. "Just work." She wanted to believe him. Instead, she quietly started paying attention. Weeks later, while delivering lunch to Damian's office as a surprise, Amelia walked into the reception area. The receptionist looked startled. "Those..." She hesitated. "Mr. Brooks is occupied." Before Amelia could respond, laughter echoed from Damian's office. A woman's laughter. Then Damian's. The office door opened. Out walked Bianca. Confident, elegant, perfectly dressed. She stopped the moment she saw Amelia. "So," Bianca said with a pleasant smile that didn't reach her eyes, "you must be Damian's wife." Amelia managed a polite smile. "And you are his marketing consultant." Behind Bianca, Damian appeared. For the briefest moment, panic flashed across his face. Then it disappeared. "Amelia, I brought you lunch." He looked at the container in her hands. "I already ate." She nodded slowly. "I can see that." She handed him the lunch anyway. "I'll let you get back to work." As Amelia walked away, she heard Bianca laugh again. She didn't turn around. That night, Damian insisted she had misunderstood everything. "They're just business meetings." "I trust you," Amelia answered. She meant it. Or at least, she desperately wanted to. Back in the present, Amelia slowly closed the final contract. Across town, Damian stood in front of the mirror in his luxury apartment, adjusting his tie. Bianca wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Tomorrow changes everything." He smiled. "It certainly does." She kissed his cheek. After this deal, nobody will remember Amelia. For reasons he couldn't explain, Damian didn't answer. Instead, his mind drifted back to the look on Amelia's face as muddy water streamed down her clothes. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was the expression of someone mourning a person who was still alive. The thought unsettled him. He picked up his car keys. "Let's get some rest." Tomorrow was supposed to be the greatest day of his life. Neither Damian nor Bianca realized it would also be the day every hidden truth would finally step into the light. The following morning dawned clear and bright, as though the storm from the previous day had never happened. Damian adjusted the cuff of his navy blue suit as his driver pulled up to the entrance of the Grand Meridian Convention Center. Television crews lined the sidewalk, reporters interviewed arriving executives, and photographers waited behind velvet barriers. "This is it," Bianca whispered, smoothing her emerald green dress, "the beginning of our new life." Damian smiled. "After today, every major developer in the country will know our name." Marcus hurried toward them from the entrance. "There you are," he said. "The board from the investment company has already arrived. They're keeping everything unusually confidential." Damian laughed. That's how big corporations operate. Marcus wasn't convinced. "I've attended plenty of signings. This feels different." As they entered the lobby, Damian noticed something unusual. Every employee wore the same silver crest pinned to their jackets. The same crest he vaguely remembered seeing on the folder Amelia had been carrying the day before. For a brief moment, the image flashed across his mind. Mud dripping from her hair. That silver emblem. He frowned. "No," he muttered to himself, "just a coincidence." An event coordinator approached with a courteous smile. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks. Welcome. The ceremony will begin shortly. Our chairwoman will address everyone before the contracts are signed." "Has anyone met her?" Damian asked casually. The coordinator smiled politely. Only a handful of senior executives. Bianca leaned toward Damian. Probably another billionaire who enjoys staying out of the spotlight. Damian nodded, though the uneasy feeling in his stomach refused to disappear. Inside the ballroom, hundreds of guests filled the room. Crystal chandeliers reflected warm light across polished marble floors. A large screen displayed the company's motto, "Building partnerships that last." Damian took his reserved seat at the front, beside Marcus and Bianca. He glanced toward the stage. Only one chair remained empty. Its nameplate simply read, "Chairwoman." Whispers spread across the audience. "When is she coming? I've heard she's brilliant. They say she rebuilt the company after her grandfather passed away." Damian looked at Marcus. "Her grandfather?" Marcus shrugged. "That's what I've heard." The master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today." The room fell silent. This partnership represents years of careful planning, shared vision, and trust. Trust. The word echoed in Damian's mind. Without warning, another memory surfaced. Years earlier, Amelia had stood beside him in their tiny apartment, placing a hand over his as he stared at a stack of unpaid invoices. "We'll get through this together," she had said. He remembered believing her completely. The applause in the ballroom pulled him back to the present. "Our chairwoman has arrived." Everyone stood. The side doors opened. A line of senior executives entered first. Then came the chief legal officer, the chief financial officer. Finally, a woman stepped through the doorway, wearing an elegant ivory business suit. Her posture was calm, her expression composed. Every executive greeted her with quiet respect. Damian's heartbeat slowed, then stopped. "Amelia." Bianca stared in disbelief. "No." Marcus looked from Damian to the stage. "You know her." Amelia acknowledged the audience with a gracious nod before taking her seat. The master of ceremonies smiled. "It is my honor to introduce the chairwoman of our company." The room erupted into applause. Damian remained frozen. His mind raced. The muddy street, the silver crest, the folder, the private invitation, the respectful greetings in the headquarters. One impossible truth connected every piece. He hadn't splashed muddy water on an unemployed ex-wife. He had publicly humiliated the woman leading the very company whose partnership he had spent years pursuing. Amelia looked across the audience. For a brief moment, her eyes met Damian's. There was no triumph in her expression, only quiet resolve. She turned to the microphone. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Before we discuss today's agreement, I'd like to share a few words about the values on which this company was built." Damian realized that whatever came next would determine not only the future of the deal, but the future of his own reputation. And for the first time in years, confidence gave way to uncertainty. The applause slowly faded. Amelia stood behind the podium, her voice calm and steady. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen." Her words carried effortlessly through the ballroom. "Our company was founded on a simple belief that successful partnerships require more than impressive financial statements. They require integrity, respect, and trust." Damian swallowed hard. Every sentence seemed directed at him, yet Amelia never looked his way. "Our founder, my grandfather, often reminded us that numbers reveal profit, but character reveals whether that profit can endure." The audience listened attentively. Several executives nodded in agreement. Amelia continued. For that reason, every company seeking a long-term partnership with us undergoes a comprehensive review. We examine financial strength, operational excellence, leadership, and corporate culture. A large screen behind her lit up. It displayed the words, "Partnership Evaluation Process." Marcus leaned closer to Damian. "I thought this was just a signing ceremony." "So did I," Damian whispered. Amelia smiled politely. "Most applicants are aware of our financial review. Fewer realize that we also evaluate leadership conduct." A quiet murmur swept through the audience. "We believe a company's reputation begins with the choices its leaders make when no one expects to be watched." Damian felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Bianca shifted uncomfortably beside him. "What does she mean?" she whispered. Before Damian could answer, the chief compliance officer stepped onto the stage carrying a tablet. Amelia turned toward him. "Mr. Collins, has every stage of today's review been completed?" "Yes, Chairwoman." "Have all reports been independently verified?" "They have." He handed her the tablet. Amelia read it for several seconds before placing it on the podium. "Thank you." She looked across the room. "Mr. Damian Brooks, would you and your business partner please join me on stage?" Hundreds of eyes turned toward Damian. His legs suddenly felt heavy. Marcus gave him a puzzled look. "I guess this is our moment." Together they walked onto the stage. Damian forced a confident smile, though his heartbeat thundered in his ears. Amelia greeted Marcus with a courteous handshake. "Mr. Brooks." She offered Damian the same professional courtesy. He hesitated before shaking her hand. It was the first time they had touched since signing their divorce papers 3 years earlier. "You look well," he said quietly. "Thank you," Amelia replied. Nothing more. No bitterness. No accusation. Only professionalism. She turned back to the audience. "Our evaluation confirms that Mr. Brooks has built an innovative construction company with talented employees and an impressive portfolio." Damian finally breathed. Maybe everything would still work out. Then Amelia continued. "However, yesterday afternoon, less than 24 hours before this ceremony, a separate incident came to our attention." The ballroom became silent. A technician pressed a button. The giant screen came alive. There was no sound at first. Only video. A black Range Rover. A rain-soaked street. A woman standing beside the road. Then, the deliberate splash. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. The footage continued. The SUV reversing. Damian leaning his elbow on the driver's door. Bianca laughing. A second intentional splash. Several people in the audience exchanged shocked looks. The recording ended. The silence that followed seemed endless. Amelia spoke gently. "The woman in that video was me." No one moved. No one spoke. She continued in the same measured tone. "I do not present this footage because of a personal relationship. I present it because our review examines leadership under ordinary circumstances." She looked directly at the audience. "Yesterday, I was not wearing a business suit. I was not standing behind this podium. I appeared to be an ordinary citizen." She paused. "And I was treated accordingly." Damian lowered his eyes. For the first time since the incident, he fully understood what he had done. Not because Amelia had become chairwoman, but because he had chosen to humiliate someone he believed could do nothing for him. Amelia continued. "This company does not expect perfection from its partners. She folded her hands. We do, however, expect leaders to demonstrate judgment, dignity, and respect toward others regardless of status or appearance. The audience remained completely still. Marcus slowly stepped away from Damian. His expression revealed both disappointment and disbelief. Bianca stared at the floor, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Amelia looked toward the board members seated in the front row. The evaluation committee has completed its recommendation. The chief legal officer stood. Chairwoman, the committee unanimously recommends postponing the signing until further review. Damian closed his eyes. Months of preparation. Years of negotiations. Everything now depended on a decision that had nothing to do with engineering or finance. Amelia nodded. The recommendation is accepted. She turned once more to the audience. Partnerships worth $50 million deserve leaders whose actions reflect the values they promise in the boardroom. The ballroom remained silent. No applause. No celebration. Only the unmistakable weight of a lesson Damian could no longer ignore. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, there's much more waiting for you on Heartbroken channel. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss our next unforgettable revenge drama. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in Amelia's position? Leave your answer in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Stay with us for another powerful story of betrayal, redemption, and justice coming up next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.